Perfect. So today is our final Monday mantra call, sort of. So it's our last call that's public. Really, I'm so proud of this call and what community we have built here and how we show up and how we treat each other and all of these beautiful things that happen every Monday morning. It's been such an evolution for me. And I use that word because it really feels like what this call has done for my growth, as well as the growth of this community. And I know individuals who are on the call who have grown so much. It's just wonderful to be part of. And it really started, I've shared this a couple weeks ago, as this opportunity really for me to just kind of get connected to people around specific topics that I was working on for a book that I'm writing. And I'd never, ever imagined at that time when I started it that it would be more than 6 or 8 week project, that it would be a 3-year, we'd be here 3 years down the road is just amazing to me. And I'm really excited about our next chapter, the collective. I'm so amazed at how many people have signed up to be on the wait list. I'm so excited about that. That's really, really, really touching for me, that you see the value, that you see how much it can help you, and that you also just respect this next change for me. So thank you guys so much for getting ready to be in the collective. And in the collective, there's just going to be this richer, I feel like a deeper opportunity for all of us. And it has been just, for those of you who decide not to join, I just want you to know in this moment how grateful I am to each of you. It has been just a joy and a privilege to be able to be with you every Monday. And I understand, for whatever personal reasons that you have, it might not be for you to join the collective, but I hope that you give it a collegiate try, or whatever that expression is, which you, as you know, you can join this next week. I think it opens, is that right, Penny, next week on the 1st? We had to do that so that you didn't have to double pay in August. So it will open on August 1st. And if you join in that week, you just pay $1. So it's, so that you can just really check it out and see that it's right for you. And so I just wanted to spend today really talking about what it's like to do something new, right? Obviously, that's new beginnings for me, all the feelings that go along with that. And it just made sense, obviously, as a topic. So we're going to talk about new beginnings. Today, our mantra is, I am ready and open for the possibilities that are to come. I am ready and open for the possibilities that are to come. New beginnings can feel really difficult if we let them, right? New beginnings are often on the tail of something that's working, right? And so this is, obviously when you have something that works really well, it's really challenging especially in your mindset, to do something different around that, right? So new beginnings can be new relationships, new jobs, new business ideas, and those all sorts of things, right? They can be really exciting, but they can also feel a little intimidating and even scary. I can attest to that. That's definitely true. I've done this many times in my career, decided to just go out there and do something completely different than what I've been doing, or changing something up. And it does feel like a big leap at the time, right? Of course, in the end, it ends up being the perfect thing. Because we love the idea of new possibilities in our life and new opportunities in our life. But when we're actually doing the things, it can cause a lot of procrastination, self-doubt, or self-sabotage, right? And so this is a really big part of, making transformation happen for yourself, is really the way to do that is by really being clear and self-aware of what things are getting in your way when those possibilities are coming. So I thought today I would share my process of creating something new in my business and some of the ideas and beliefs and actions that I had to develop in order to put it out there into the world, right? Because that's the scary part, is you come up with this great idea, or you decide to do something really great in your life, and then we get caught in, can I do this? Is this possible? Will this work out? All of this inner critic stuff comes up. Is this right for me? Will people get it? Will people be understanding? All of these things. So this idea of creating, just some really important mindset pieces, I felt like was a really good topic for today. And I think if you are in business, or you're in a relationship that's new, or even a relationship that's not new, but you're trying to do new things, that you're in your own personal growth story, wherever you are, all of these things that I'm going to share today will be really good help for that. So, have you ever felt scared to change something that has worked for a long time? I want you to think about that question. Something that's been working, and then you decide that, I'm going to change it up. So if you can say yes, or put your hand up, or if you want to share. Is there anyone who wants to share? Yeah, for sure. Thanks. I'm going to just turn on my chat. Yes, right. And so I want us to just brainstorm, if you're open to it. What are some of the inner critic thoughts that you've had about making that move? So what are some of the things that you say to yourself that get in the way, that when you're trying to when you decide to make a change with something that has worked well for a long time? Can you think of anything? If you want to, you can share it out loud, or if you want to just write it in the chat, that's fine. Either way, what's some things that people say? Here, some of the things that I like that are on my little list that I wrote. If it ain't broke, why change it? Right? Like that's just that sort of inner critic thing. I won't look like I know what I'm doing. Amazing. I love that one. Yep. Don't upset the apple cart. There's a lot of uncertainty, fear. I will be able to deal with the new responsibilities. Absolutely. People will be mad, disappointed, uninterested at me, right? My inner critic often just tells me, you're making a mistake. You're making a mistake. And then, who do you think you are? That's like my go-to. She loves to say that to me. Who do you think you are, right? Like, how dare you, right? How dare you change something that's just perfectly fine, right? So any other ones? Yeah, good. Okay, so this is what we're going to try and upend a little bit, like get into, because all of that negative stuff is there really to help us stay safe, obviously. We love certainty, right? The grass may not be greener on the other side. Exactly. It's a good one too. We say all sorts of really bad idioms to ourselves when we're in these situations, right? And there are a lot of them because people are so afraid to make change, right? So I'm going to share some practices that I've used over the last, 4 months as we've been planning this change. You can't go back if you fail. Oh, I love that one. Yeah. You're too old. Hands up for that one. That's true, right? I remember when I first decided to go into coaching, I was 46, and I'm like, you can't change you can't get a career at 46. There's no way. And here, that I know you can blow that one out of the water. It's not true for sure, but it is what happens. We're too old. Okay, and too anything, right? I'm too uneducated. I don't have the resources. There's so many different things that we say to ourselves. Okay, so I'm going to share some of the practices that I have used over the last 4 months to put this into play, to create this new collective, to do something outside of what has just been the norm, right? And to really do something that's for me, what I think is the next great step in my, business career. And so then, and all the things that I've had to sort of get over in order to do that. So the first one is acknowledge how far you've come. Give yourself props for things you've done and are currently doing. It's so important to say to yourself, yeah, this thing has been amazing because I made it amazing. Because when you can say this thing is amazing because I made it amazing, then you can say to yourself, what I'm going to create is also going to be amazing. Because I'm already creating amazing. Like if I was to not feel proud of this call, making something new out of it would be really tough, right? I wouldn't, if I'm not feeling great about what I've already created, sure, what I'm gonna create would not feel strong, but I know what I have created is amazing. And so then I can then use that, right? By acknowledging it, by acknowledging what I've done, I can then use that as a foundational basis to know that I'm probably pretty good at creating, right? So often we overlook our accomplishments and focus on what we can't do or haven't done. We spend way too much time in the place where, oh, I messed up this, I messed up that, this isn't working out, right? And so then that's the messaging we're giving ourselves about something new because we're not sure. So then we use the negative stuff to back up the fact that it's not going to work out, instead of this positive stuff that we could use to back up that it's probably going to work out, right? So it's really important to acknowledge where you are, how good you are at what you do, or how good you are at taking care of yourself, or whatever the thing is, right? So that you can, if you're ready to take on something new as a practice, look at a different practice that you've put in place that you're really good at. So you can see, yeah, I remember it took some time to get to the place where I had momentum, but I did it. And so now okay, so if I take on this new thing, it's going to take some time, but because you have a roadmap already to prove it, right? Prove to yourself that you can do some things. Number 2, excuse me, be grateful for where you are in the present. One of the best ways I find to relieve the worry of what's to come is to see the blessings of today, right? But feeling gratitude about your life really opens you up to just being okay with where you are, right? Like it just stops a lot of worry. It stops stress. I know I've talked about it a lot. Gratitude, you can't feel those negative feelings and gratitude at the same time. So the more and more you practice gratitude, like almost obsessively, the more it's going to at least pause, and eventually shift all of that worry, stress, anxiety. It will overtake it because it feels so much better. Our bodies like what feels good. So gratitude at the beginning is not a natural state, right, of always being in gratitude, especially in challenging times. And so as we practice it, it becomes our natural way of being. And then worry, anxiety, and stress are not, because gratitude takes over, right? Gratitude is this simple, really simple tool that I use to get out of my head and into my heart. Like really fast, gets me out of that inner critic and into my inner wisdom. It just works. And it doesn't matter how many people tell you it works until you do it. It doesn't feel like it works, and then it does. I promise. And I'm not some like special gratitude genius, right? I literally just practice gratitude. You know, I find, you know, the smallest little things just float my boat now because I've practiced so much. And I'm always saying thank you to, you know, the universe, to God, to myself, to my friends, to whatever, all the time about every little thing. And that has changed everything. When I'm worried and stressed or feel uncertain about making a change, gratitude grounds me and helps me to be at ease. And so it's such a big part of transformation, right? It's really the most transformative tool you can put into your toolbox. Number 3, learn to be okay with uncertainty. So this is really challenging and really important. Our unconscious mind craves safety and security, right? We want to move always from chaos to order. It feels so much better in our bodies for things to just be routine, organized, straightforward, rote, all of those things, because that feels safe, right? We can predict as much as we think. That's what our egos think, right? That we can predict what's next when things feel orderly and exact and concise. Of course, none of that is true. That's just what we would like. We like things to be in a tidy box, right? Life is not a tidy box. Thank God it's not a tidy box, because it would be really boring if it was. But for all of you like me, you know, I call myself a recovering benevolent control freak. I loved to make things fit in the box. If I could make everything fit in the box and keep that lid on snug, I felt like I had some control, right? One of the hardest things I've ever done is lift the lid and allow my life to get messy. In order to do extraordinary things, we have to get more comfortable with the discomfort of not knowing how things are going to work out. If you want extraordinary things in your life, you have to be okay with uncertainty. It's that simple. If you want an extraordinary relationship, you have to be okay with letting go of controlling every single aspect of that relationship. If you want to have an extraordinary personal, you know, experience in your life, you have to be okay with letting go of trying to predict how your life is going to turn out. If you want to have extraordinary things happen in your business, you have to be okay with not knowing how your business is going to turn out. It's the only way. The more you try to put it in a box, the less it can expand. And if it can't expand, then it's really small. It's not shining. It's not bold, right? So letting go of all of that is really how we do that. One of the ways that I began being better with uncertainty was to, at the very beginning, was to try a tiny new thing each day. So it's little tiny things, like maybe a different walk routine, right? Like, so if I walk every day, and you know, there's only so many ways you can walk in a neighborhood or whatever, but I tried to pick a different street, say, right? So that I would notice different things and just be not in the exact same element because for a long time, I just walked this exact same route all the time because it's just habit. Feels comforting to be, oh, there's the pink house with the blue door, da, 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 da. And now there's right? Like that feels really good, organized to our brain. It feels like order, especially when you're in a chaotic situation, which I definitely was. I walked to like get myself centered. And so disrupting that a little bit helped me to just start to be more and more comfortable with uncertainty. I actually have Duolingo on my phone all the time, and I practice all different languages. So I have like Spanish, well, 3 really, because I'm always just trying to figure out those 3 languages. So I have French on there, I do a German, and I do Spanish. And so on any given day, I just do a lesson and be like completely out of my element, learning something new, right? Or I try a new recipe, thanks to Candace. Candace waved her hand. So I try all sorts of new foods or a new, recipe or something. I'll just try something, right? Or add a spice to something a different way. So Candace has Epic Your Business, and I have maybe 400 spices from her. And so, not really, but I have a lot. And so every once in a while, I'll be like, oh, let's just try the whatever and just add it in and do something completely different than I've done with the same old, right? So it just adds a little, it's literally spice to life, right? That's what uncertainty is, really, just a little bit of spice. So just add a little something different, try a little something different, right? Upend your routine a little bit. So if you always do stuff this way, flip it and just see what happens, right? Just to make yourself be comfortable with letting go. Number 4, let go of unnecessary expectations. So when perfectionism is a big part of your inner critic, which it is for me, it can lead us to have highly unattainable expectations of ourselves, right? So we have these goals that are impossible to meet. Hands up or a heart or emoji or something if this feels like you. Yeah. Okay. So perfectionism is challenging because it's basically it creates procrastination, right? And self-sabotage. For me, my self-sabotage looks like this. If I couldn't be sure I could do something basically at 110% in under 10 seconds, then I can't take the chance to do it. If I don't think that I can do it at that highest level, my self-sabotage is to halt and not do it at all. If I don't know that I'm going to be perfect at something, then I would just hide from it. I would just stop. I would just go around it, do something different, pick something else. So you can imagine what that leads to, right? That leads to doing nothing that you want to do because you aren't good at everything at the beginning, right? We'll talk about that next. I chose to only do things I knew I was more than capable of doing well. And so that leads to, first off, sameness, right? And it leads to resentment, and it leads to frustration because you are not doing the things, you're not taking any chances. There are no risks in that. And when we don't take risks, right, life is just boring and there's no newness because you're always doing the same thing. You also get really stuck, right? So I would say this is very true in my relationship, my first relationship. I got really stuck in doing the things that I was great at over and over and over and over and over again, and not taking any chances in doing things that I needed to do in order to actually expand myself so that I could be maybe good in that marriage, but definitely good for myself. Right? So we have to not just choose the things that we're already good at. And so that's part of that, again, letting go, right? Like trying new things, right? Make a recipe that you're not sure it's going to turn out and let people be like, that was okay, instead of it being, your best chocolate chip cookies, right? That everyone praises you on, because that's what happens, right? When you do things that you're really good at, the hard part of that is that you get so much praise for that thing. You get so much praise because you're amazing at that thing, but you're not expanding. You're not doing things that are outside of that. And all you're then become addicted to basically is external praise. And so you're never doing things that are outside of that space, because you're so afraid that people aren't going to like things, are going to feel disappointed in you, that you're not going to live up to people's expectations, right? Because you've got all of this pressure that you've put on yourself that you can only do things when people say you're amazing at it. So, number 5, have a beginner mindset. This was one of my greatest and most challenging ways of changing the way that I thought. Becoming a beginner changed so much for me. Letting go of needing to be good at the start of something gave me permission to ask for help, make mistakes, stay open-minded, be curious, and try new things. Being a beginner did that, right? When we allow ourselves to be a beginner, it means that we are like childlike, right? That we are remembering what it was like to learn to walk, for example. For all of you who have had that privilege of watching a child learn to walk, one of the most amazing things about that process, for me anyway, is, well, there's a couple of things. One is that they absolutely don't know how to do it. 1000% they don't know how to do it, right? And then there's just stuff that happens that keeps them motivated to keep trying, right? Whether that, some of it's external, like, good job, let's keep trying, but also there's just this internal drive to keep trying. That exists in all of us all the time, right? We are born with this internal drive to keep on going. But our inner critic gets in the way and says, no, you can't look bad. So stop doing that thing in front of people, or stop doing that thing altogether until you've figured out how to perfect it somehow without being in the action of doing it. So we stay on the runway the whole time, just hoping that we'll research enough or plan enough or, take in enough that when we decide someday to do the thing, we'll be great at it. It's why so many businesses fail. It's why relationships fail, because we don't actually do the actions to the baby steps, right? We won't take the things where we're faltering a little bit, or where we actually fall down, or where we do take that one step and be like, wow, right? And celebrate. We don't do any of those things. And then the other piece around that baby step and the falling down is that when you watch a baby learn to walk, they fall down a lot, and then they get up, right? And so there's that saying that, it's doesn't matter how many times you fall down, you could fall down 6 times as long as you get up 7, right? And that's the truth of life, right? You are going to keep, this isn't going to be just like, this perfect, I decide to do this thing and it's going to be perfect, right? Instead, it's going to be that I'm going to keep learning from every step. And then that's the third thing, which I've shared before in other ways, but is this idea that you're never starting at the beginning, right? A baby who learns to walk, all sorts of things are happening that very first step that first time that they like lift up, the first time they put one foot forward, they're not going back to not knowing, just lying on their back. They have all, like, you learn in steps, right? So when you fall down, you're not going back to here, you're just falling down and getting up to this spot, and then keep going from there. So it's a reset, not a restart, right? Especially when we have this beginner's mindset. Number 6, open up to your natural creativity. Creativity is natural in all of us, right? Creativity means a lot of things. It's not just arts and crafts, right? Creativity is about how we decide to think, what kind of ideas we bring forward, how we use those ideas. It can also be around writing, creating, building, all sorts of developing, all sorts of words like that. When we cultivate creativity in ourselves, new ideas and ways of doing things appear. So the more that you embrace your creativity, whatever that might be, the more you're going to have ideas that come to you that are different than what you've always been thinking. So if you love to be creative in the kitchen or in a doodle book, or you love to color or paint or garden, whatever the things are that float your creative juices, it's important to do them, especially when you're in a process of creating something new, because it's going to help you to foster new ideas in this creative way, right? So I use simple tools to help me all the time when I'm in a creative process, which I feel like I'm in quite often, because that's part of what my job is to be creative. I have to always be honing sort of that my creative thinking, because when I'm coaching, everything is like problem solving in the minute, right? So I'm like constantly just, my brain has to be able to do that really well. And it does that really well. And I'm grateful for that because it's made me a good coach, but it is something that I have to also cultivate, right? And the same with when I make a post or writing, like I'm writing a blog or whatever, that's all just using creativity all the time. And so one of the things that helps me, Linkta, you're gonna laugh, are you on here yet? So I use colorful pens. So I have a jar full of both ink pens that I use and also Sharpies that are right beside me. I use color all the time around me because it helps me just to not just think in black and white. Basically, it helps me to have sort of a rainbow of ideas. I know that sounds silly, but that's how it really does do that for me. So I have colorful pens. I love drawing my ideas. So when I'm making notes, I'm always using like boxes and circles and stars and whatever. Penny can attest to this. All my notes are like always they always have things all around them. So I allow whatever feels intuitive, I draw that on my notes, right? And because who knows what that is? I don't know what that is, but it does change the way. So I will have like a circle around a word, and then I'll do like triangles all around it, and then I'll do dots in there, and then suddenly that dot will be a word, and I'll write the word beside the dot, and then a list of things will come from that. And it will be part of the process is actually just allowing for the picture of that to come to life for me, right? So allowing that to just kind of seep out and not understand it and not try to control it. I put ideas on cue cards. I use a lot of Post-it notes that are all brightly colored, and I plunk them all over the place, right? And then I use them sort of like puzzle pieces and move them all around so that I'm just being in that process of creativity. I'm just going to read this comment. This creativity comment is so true. So many other ideas come to me when I get out of my way and just try or do something. One of the best ideas Carla shared with me, the best compliment I received from someone was that she said, I not only wrote in colors, but I spoke in colors. Oh, that's great. Yeah. So this is just really, it's powerful to embrace this creativity, especially when you're trying to do something outside of comfort, right? Number 7, find the joy in trying something new. When we have fun and are playful, life is so much better. It's just that simple, right? I can be, I'm not going to say I am, I can be a super serious person. I don't think that's a bad thing. It's just a bad thing if it's all the time, right? My super seriousness has gotten me really far in life, right? And I can get super serious about things, especially when they're challenging, which, helps me to really focus, get from, like, one of my superpowers is to get people from chaos to order, including myself. And I've found that lots of that is through being serious, but I can be overly serious. And so I am blessed to have great partners in my life who laugh a lot, both personally and professionally. So my husband, Rob, anyone who knows him knows that he jokes about everything, like literally every single thing he finds humor in. I do think that's what he was put here to do, especially for me, is to lighten people's life. He goes to the supermarket and we'll be standing in line and he cannot help himself but make a joke or, be like, say something that's going to make the cashier laugh. He just always makes people laugh. It is absolutely frustrating at times, especially when I want to be super serious, but it has lightened my life. And Penny does the same thing for me. She has a lightness to her that stops me from getting into the weeds. And I'm so grateful to have both of them both have that quality, that shared piece where we laugh way too much in our meetings. and I'm very, very grateful to have that, because I can get really, really serious. And not that she's not a serious person, she's a totally serious person too, but she can just has this lightness, which really, really helps. And I found that in my best friendships, that's also true, right? So I have just surrounded myself now with people who bring joy and lightness, laughter and playfulness to my life, so that I can also cultivate that in myself. And I hope that I give that back as well, much more than I used to. So find the joy in things. Number 8, cultivate self-confidence. Self-confidence is one of the pillars of self-love. It is the one I teach last, because I think it's probably the most, it takes the most to develop, and you need all the other pieces in place in order to really feel self-confidence. It's really around self-worth, right? It's that ability to feel a sense of self-worth regardless of what is going on around you. So whether you're confident in specific things like speaking to an audience, or just as a whole in yourself, right? That's really what self-confidence is about, but it's from inside out, not the outside in. It's not based on other people's opinions of you. It's based solely on your own belief in yourself, right? And so we want to cultivate this confidence, because what happens is when we have a sense of confidence or a sense of self-worth, no matter what choices we make, we're comfortable in ourselves still, right? And it allows us then also to be okay if something doesn't work out. It doesn't mean something's wrong with us. We don't go into shame, a sense of shame when things don't work out. Instead, we just take it and like learn the lessons from it, decide what works well and what doesn't. I can give you a really solid example. So about 4 months ago or 5 months, maybe longer, I can't remember, COVID years ago, I don't know. Everything seems like it's 2 months or 10 years ago. I started a subscription program to kind of figure, because I knew that I wanted to add something bigger to my business and to creating, more, a place where people could get more resources, more of me, in a way, and use this subscription. And I hated it. I shut it down in 2 months. It's not because it wasn't well run or it didn't have what I wanted in it, but it was missing ingredients for me to enjoy it, right? I didn't love the way it didn't have, it didn't really take off in terms of like people being interested. There were very few beautiful people who supported it, and I'm grateful for that. But what was missing from it was community. And that's such a huge thing for me. This is what matters to me the most, right? That I get to be in connection with people. And it was completely void of that. And I could feel it instantly. Like it was built beautifully. Penny and I worked on it. It was gorgeous. It looked good. All the things were right, was a great price point, and it failed within 2 months. Because mostly, I don't even know if it failed. I just didn't like it at all. And so I just shut it down. And I'm like, okay, that was a bit of a, that was a lot of time we put into that. There was some energy, it cost money, all of these things. I'm like, okay, well, it wasn't meant to be. That's fine. And then all of a sudden, this idea comes to me, this Monday Mantra Collective piece. And I'm like, that's what the subscription was for, to teach me all the things that were right and wrong with what I wanted to do, so that I could create this version of it, right? And so this is what self-confidence does. I could have just felt like I'm not the kind of person who can do a membership, right? I could say that to myself. Oh, I'm not the kind of person who anyone wants to subscribe to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So I could be self-doubting, or I can take all of that and go, oh, that was juicy. That didn't work out. What can I do to make that different? Because I believe in what I'm offering. I believe in myself. I believe in this community and honoring what I want to bring forward to the community. So that's what self-confidence does. It takes things that don't work out and allows us to use them to make things work out, right? If you believe in yourself when things are calm and when things feel good, it is so much easier to believe in yourself when you really need to. What else? Sorry, that was like a ghost at the door. Anyway, so I want you to just really work on that self-confidence piece. Prior membership was your learning. Now you're ready. Love that. Thank you. I love life lessons learned from just trying something. Exactly. And then being not in shame, right? Not saying I'm a failure, I'm bad, this didn't work out for me because of me, but instead saying this is a mistake to learn from, or this is an opportunity to grow, right? That's the difference between self-confidence and self-doubt. Number 9. Be optimistic. What's that expression? If you know, you know. I believe that life is permanently and generally a blessing, and temporarily and specifically challenging. That's my definition of optimism, right? That we are permanently and generally in a state of blessing. Life is a blessing. And that temporarily and specifically life can be really challenging and difficult. And of course, things come up in our lives. Seeing the world through rose-colored glasses, or whatever you want to call them, helps us feel like things will work out most often. When we are optimistic, we believe things are going to work out most often. So it allows us then to see that when we're trying something new, we can use that lens instead of using the lens of, this is definitely not working out, I'm going to fail. Holy cow, how can I take this on, right? With the perspective of optimism, we can trust that taking a chance on something or starting something new will be good for us. So we want to just cultivate optimism as much as possible, seeing the world as a blessing, right? Seeing our life as a blessing will help you then see when you take a chance on something that it's likely going to work out. And then the last one, 10, is, oh, let me just read that. Know what you know what you don't know what you need to learn. Love that. That's great. Number 10, create a bold vision of what your success looks and feels like. Create a bold vision of what your success looks like and feels like. This has been one of my most favorite tools, because what you focus on expands. So focus on dreaming big. Focus on this massive life. Why not? There's no reason not to. Focus on wanting all the things, having all the things, feeling all the things that feel wonderful. Every day, especially when I'm starting something new, I spend a few minutes imagining the project or the whatever I'm working on in its entirety, with some very specific, wonderful success markers happening in my life. So what I mean by that is I visualize my life every morning. I take like 3 or 4 minutes and I just basically I'm just lying down and I imagine my life as it's meant to be because of the success of whatever it is I'm creating. So spending time believing that what you want to happen, so whether that's making money, creating a great relationship, having a smooth rollout of a project, publicity, a book tour, grandchildren visiting you in your Barcelona villa, that's mine, obviously. Whatever it is that you want, right? If you are imagining, if you believe that what you want to happen is happening, it means you're going to start navigating your life each day with those ideas at top of mind, right? So when we have ideas in our head, our brain can only choose to, it looks through the lens that we give it directions to look through, right? So if we're always looking through the lens of anxiety, worry, and stress, we see the world through those eyes, right? We see the problems, we see the fear, we see the things that are going to go wrong. If we see the world through the eyes of our grandchildren visiting us at our Barcelona villa, right? Which means that we have incredible success. It means that we, have been able to afford to fly down to have a Barcelona villa. It means that we have, probably time we can take off from work because we've created abundance and we have enough coaching clients, or whatever it is that you do, right? It means that your relationship is really strong because you're down there with your partner and the grandchildren are visiting, right? Whatever it is that you decide to believe is happening for you, then that's how you're going to start navigating, right? So if I'm looking through those eyes, then I'm like seeing the possibility for travel to be regular for me, right? And so then when a trip comes up, I'm saying yes to it instead of like, oh no, I can't, right? It creates a clear path towards your dreams. when you visualize what you want in your life all the time, right? So take time to do that. I definitely do, and it definitely has changed my life, you know, all the time, every day. All right, so I want to give us a little minute. I'm going to turn off the recording. Thank you, everyone, for having spent these 3 years with me in this way. And I look so forward to our new beginnings. All right, I'm going to turn off the recording so that we can have some questions and a little conversation. Takes me a second. Stop. There we go.